Well, I tried to make it Sunday, but I got so damn depressed that I set my sights on Monday and I got myself undressed. I ain't ready for the altar, but I do agree there's times when a woman sure can be a friend of mine. Well, I keep on thinking about you, sister golden hair surprise, and I just can't live without you. Can't you see it in my eyes? I've been one poor correspondent, and I've been too hard to find, but it doesn't mean you ain't been on my mind. Will you meet me in the middle? Will you meet me?
Nothing? I really don't like breaking you up because I know you're having a great time together, but I do you're gonna want to hear our next speaker, Jean Steele. So Jean is the founder of Happy People Win, and that is a wellness training and speaking firm. And she has such extensive experience, not only in what she's going to talk about today, and I don't want to get too much into that, that's going to be her role, but also in working with our field, and she'll talk a little bit about that. But best of all is Jean and I share a very special connection. We went to junior high school together in Australia. We really didn't, actually. And I would like to point out it was Jean's idea for me to say this. So with that, I'd like to welcome to the stage Jean Steele.
I told her I wanted her to introduce me as her babysitter when she was growing up. But I'm her age. Hi, you guys. So I'm so excited to be doing this because you don't even know you are my peeps. So I'm going to kind of talk about happiness today, but I want to share a little bit about my background first. So I am the founder of an organization, a business called Happy People Win. I truly believe I have the best job in the entire world, and I'm going to share some of that information on why I believe that today. So I'm calling this session two things. One, running on empty, about compassion fatigue, and the other is called learning to run wild. And I'm going to explain how I got that title at the end of the session. So my background initially, I went to UCSB. Any Grouchos? Two, right on. So I went to UCSB, and then I graduated, and I worked for 10 years in alcohol and drug prevention. We were contracted by the county, and I went into the schools and did education from actually K through college. And then after that, I taught DUI for 15 years, drug diversion, and I was a probation officer. It was super fun. And I loved it. And actually, my boss told me I was the only one who she wasn't worried about getting shot. And the thing was, because I saw them as human beings who did something stupid, not as bad people. So it was quite an interesting time. So let me tell you how I got into this field. About 20 years, no, more than 20 years ago, I was hired by a hospital in Sacramento to design a basic preventative medicine program. And frankly, what they wanted to do was reduce their costs. So they figured if I talked about prevention, that people would be healthier, they would be saving money, but the win-win was the patients would be healthier. So I would teach a couple-hour class in the evening to about 50 people. And one night I was talking about cardiovascular disease, and a guy in his class, the class raised his hand. He goes, "I have it." And I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Wow, how old are you?" He goes, 42. And I said, "You look like you're in great shape." He goes, "I'm a runner." He goes, I'm in really good shape. I've never been sick, and I have cardiovascular disease. I went, wow. So a few minutes later, we're talking about high blood pressure. Same guy raises his hand. And he goes, I have that too. And everybody in the group's like, no way, wow, sorry. Pretty soon, every disease, he's raising his hand. And we went from total empathy to shut up. He goes, no, I have it. And I said, when I get to cervical cancer, I go, no, you don't have that. So I said, how can you have everything? And he goes, I already told you. I said, no, you didn't. He goes, yeah, I did. I told you I'm 42. I went, so? He goes, well, I would think you'd know as an educator, when you turn 40, your body deteriorates. And I go, no, your eyes go the day you turn 40, but not your whole body. So after class, he came up to talk to me, and I said, you're next. And he goes, no, it's private. And I go, ooh, how come? And he goes, it's really embarrassing. I go, ooh, I'm not a clinician. I do not want to hear anything embarrassing or gross. He goes, no, I want to tell you. And I thought, ugh. So everybody's gone, and he's whispering. And I said, no, you don't have to whisper. He goes, it's just so awkward. And I'm thinking, ew. And he said, do you know of a therapist I could see? I go, are you kidding me? That's your embarrassing thing? He goes, yeah. Who wanted him to see a therapist? His wife, yeah. So I said, what's going on? And shockingly, thank God I was sitting down, he told me they were having trouble communicating. And I've never heard of that, so it was super weird. And he told me that they have one child, teenage daughter. She was playing at the Sacramento River, perfect day with all her friends, dove in the water, broke her neck, permanently paralyzed. And I asked him when it happened, and he replied, 2 years ago. I said, oh, when you turned 40? He goes, yeah. I said, okay, everything that you mentioned is absolutely connected to stress, not turning 40, and that is the reason for all of this. And he was what we termed a high utilizer. He was coming in 6 to 8 times a month to see his primary dachshund specialist. So I referred him to the psych department. And it was interesting because I said, you need to have grief and bereavement classes. He goes, she didn't die. I said, she lost the ability to walk, and you are grieving that. So I met with his docs, and I go, why didn't you send him 2 years ago? And they said, we didn't even know that happened. I go, how can you not know? And they said, well, we have 12 minutes if we're lucky. We don't get into people's personal lives. They come in for a migraine, we'll give them meds, and then they leave, which is a true tragedy. So what we did is we went back to Harvard Medical School and purchased a mind-body program. And I personally taught stress and wellness, assertiveness training, and anger management. And I became so fascinated by the mind-body connection by wellness that I went back to school and have my master's degree in wellness. And I'll give you some aha moments I've had. I spoke at a wedding planners conference. They had this total aha moment. They go, oh my goodness, our brides wake up this most important day of their life and they're starting to get the flu, or they have a migraine, or they have backaches. My niece and her boyfriend graduated, went to Hawaii for a week, were sick the entire time. And there's such a strong connection between, which is kind of fascinating when you think about it, with our outer stress and our inner bodies. So I love that whole notion, and I love talking about it because it used to be that if you were healthy, you were good to go, but wellness looks beyond just general health. So let me explain that to you. So wellness is, first of all, yes, of course it's about physical health, but it's also about emotional. And you might be a perfectly fit physical specimen. However, you're not able to feel or share emotions. You're considered healthy, but not well. Spiritual. And I've had people say, well, I don't believe in a higher power, so that one doesn't really attain to me. And I said, yeah, because spirituality is about being connected to the world around us. I hope we're all spiritual. I hope we all have a connection. And then intellectual, you attending this conference is intellectual wellness. Environmental wellness. Environmental wellness is everything from your home to your community, to your city, to your state, to our country, to our world. And then finally, social. And I work a lot in long-term care, and I love the research that says more important even for successful aging is more important than diet and exercise is the social aspect of not isolating yourself. Now, I also want to share with you all the artwork. I've written 2 books, and all the artwork in my presentations as well is done by my sister, who's an air ambulance nurse. And she's very right, left brain. She's a great artist. So my first book, she drew 60 pictures. My second book, I said, will you draw more? She goes, do people get paid for this? I said, some people think it's an honor to be asked. And so I'm only writing 2 books. Okay. So this is what wellness is to me. First of all, it's about balance. And I'll tell you something. If you're in the hiring area of your organizations, this is what I ask when people apply to work with me and I interview them. So what do you do for fun? And every single time they go, what do you mean? And I said, I mean, what do you do for fun? And if I hire them, people have said, were you looking for illegal activity? Really? Yeah, I was. Like, you're going to say at an interview, oh my God, I wish you didn't ask, but I totally steal from my employer. But this is what I want. I want you to have a life. I want you to go home and on your time off, do something fun and come back rejuvenated. So balance is when you don't feel that your heart or mind are being pulled too hard in any direction. If you dropped your 3-year-old off at daycare yesterday with a green runny nose, you might be here physically, but emotionally you're not. Sometimes it's hard on a night you're out on the town and having a good time and you're worried about work. I do not think there's such a thing as perfect work-life balance. I think that we have to work on it, but I do think that we need to continually make sure that we have the fun side in our lives. So, the next one is recognizing life is short. Before I work with an organization, I check them out. And if they donate to any group that I don't support, and it doesn't fit my values, I won't even work with them because life is too short. I won't even have lunch with someone I don't enjoy. And it isn't like you say, do you want to have lunch? And I say, I'm sorry, life is too short, because that would be super mean. But I still won't do it. So life is too short to wait. It's about self-responsibility, and probably most of you would not have jobs if everybody took responsibility for their own behavior. And I have a one-panel cartoon, and it's a newscaster, and he goes, I'm sorry for interrupting this program. We have late-breaking news. Someone in the United States, personal responsibility for their own behavior. More on this later. And I think this is dangerous that we don't. And this is kind of a theme of what I talk about, because people say, wow, you're a happy person. And I say, I choose it. It isn't like it just happens. It isn't in my DNA. It's my responsibility. What if I woke up today and I said, I'm speaking to this group. Anybody gives me the stink eye, my day is horrible. I already decided I'm going to have the best day ever. So I'm not turning my power of my fabulous day over to someone I don't even know. Are you kidding me? No. So own and think how you feel 100%. So the last one is about making choices. And every single day we make choices moving toward worseness or toward wellness. From how many times we hit the snooze alarm, to what we have for breakfast, to hummus and vegetables or treats. And I noticed the hummus and vegetables didn't go so fast. Just saying. So I love this quote. We are our choices. Now, it's so simple, but think about it in this way. You sitting here in this room with this life, with this family and friends, is a result of the choices that you have made. And if you're not happy, bummer, you didn't make good choices. So the cool thing is, I was speaking at this conference. It's actually called Women in Construction. It's a national association. So I'm talking to this woman. She's this little Asian woman. And I said, what do you do? She goes, building contractor. I went, how'd you get into that? It's so male dominated. She goes, I'm actually a pediatric oncologist. And I went, can I talk to you more? Because I need to hear this story. Well, what happens is when she goes through her rotations to become a physician, you don't get to meet the kids that you work with throughout the span of their cancer. Well, when she became a full-time doctor, it was killing her. And she said one night she stayed up all night to stabilize a 12-year-old girl. She said she went home, slept a little bit, came back, and the little girl had passed. And she goes, I quit. And I went, what? And she said, oh, my parents were so upset. She goes, in my culture, this was not something to be proud of. And I went, I think you're amazing, because how many of us would tough it out and say, you know what, in 20 years, I'm out of here. She realized my heart is broken every day, and I can't do this. So I admire that, because we all know people who should have gotten out of whatever field they're in 20 years ago, but they say, I'm staying. Look at them. Since you're clapping, do you want to point to the person I might be referring to? No, I'm kidding. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about finding happy. And this, you guys, have any of you read this? Oh my gosh, I love this book. First of all, Harvard, legit. And secondly, it's about the neuroscience of happiness. And I love this book. So let me share a few things that are in this book. First of all, we know what happiness is, positive emotions. But look at the part 2. So it means that not only is it about positivity, but it's about optimism. So if you say, today I'm super happy, tomorrow we're probably all going to be dead, you're not happy. Because it's about positivity in the future. And it's also very subjective. And I think this is important for you and for your clients, that sometimes people will say, I went to this event and I just didn't enjoy it. And I go, so? And they go, well, everybody else did. And I go, well, there's different things that make us happy. I live in wine country. After Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill 40 years ago, I do not enjoy wine. And so I would never want to go to wine tasting. But so let me give you some examples of this. So in our culture, for most of us, at Christmas time or whatever holiday, you give a young kid a stuffed animal, thanks, throw it, open up the next present. But for these kids in this village in Africa, even a used stuffed animal is best day ever. Pizza party for us, not a big deal, but for these 2 little girls with cancer, best day ever. This is subjective happiness. Now, this guy I love because he won Biggest Onion in Great Britain. And look at his face, you guys. If you photoshopped a baby, you would not think any differently, but this is an onion. How many of you are totally jealous of him? Yeah, you want that. I wouldn't even buy it at the farmer's market because that's a lot of chopping. So here's another example. And this is, some of you are going to go, oh my God, you're so lucky. Some of you are going to go, that's disgusting. And I cried when this happened. I was so happy. You guys, I got to hold the baby Aunt Tina. I cried. And I've had people say, rude people, that it isn't the cutest thing they've ever seen in their life. Oh my God. The only bummer was I couldn't take it home, because apparently, you're not supposed to. But whatever, I enjoyed it. It was one of my best days. So let me tell you another thing. So I was speaking at Conference of Washington, and I brought my assistant, and I said, hey, I have a venture scheduled for us when we're up there. And for some reason, she gets nervous when I say that. I don't know why. So I told her what it was, and she goes, I'm not doing that. And I go, yes, you are. I go, it's on your bucket list. She goes, no, it isn't. I go, I'm your boss. I made your bucket list. And she says, I hate you. I said, no, you don't. And guess what we did? We went shark diving. Now, she still loves me. When they opened up the cage, she didn't want to stay in the water. She's a little bit of a baby. And I might have said, if they come toward us, let's just say I'm more important in the organization, so I'm going to push you. But that's fair. That's totally fair. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. It is subjective. So another thing this book talks about is kind of different than what most Americans think. Most Americans think that if you are successful, then you'll be happy. Not true. If you are happy, you will become successful. And that's an interesting way of thinking about things. This shocks me, and what makes me even sadder about this is people will say, really? That's high. That just makes me sad. So this book also talks about, it used to be thought years ago that your brain was pretty static, but now they realize depending on how you live your life, your brain can change. And so if you look for the positives, your day will be totally different. So let me explain that. I have a friend named Cameron who is pure joy. I love this guy. He is absolutely so much fun to be around. And we all have those friends that is just a blast. So here we are at breakfast, and I want to tell you, he is a total outdoor guy. He climbs, he goes in his kayak, he surfs, he jumps out of planes, he travels all over around the world with his girlfriend, now fiancée, as of 2 weeks ago. And here we are, the full picture. So what do you notice about Cam? He has 2 prosthetic legs and a prosthetic arm. So, About 17 years ago, Cam was 15 years old, and he lived across the street in Grover Beach from the ocean. And his parents were out, and he and his identical twin brother and a few of their friends got into the beer and got pretty drunk. Well, they kind of were passed out, being goofy, and Cam decided he wanted to go swimming. So he walks across to go to the ocean. The rest of the guys stayed there, and the next thing he knew, he woke up a week later in the hospital. And he had been run over by a train. He had passed out on the tracks. And interestingly, the wheels were so hot, they cauterized it immediately so he didn't bleed out. Then it flipped him over, cut off his arm, and cauterized it. And Cam, being 15, he goes, so I woke up in the hospital. He's a total surfer dude. Woke up in the hospital, and I looked down, and I don't have any feet. And so I immediately pulled up the covers and thought, phew. So he was happy. So here's Cam's identical twin brother, who became so horribly depressed and distraught over Cam's accident that he started to use very heavily and overdosed and died when they were 21. This is Cam's, he said, he is half of me. So here is Cam, is absolutely not able to do the things he used to do. The most important person in his life dies, and he rallies. He starts working for Hanger Institute, and he travels around the world, and he works with people who've lost limbs. Plus, he helps Hanger do things like, they used to have prosthetics that you could walk down the stairs, and he goes, I want to walk up. So he helped them design those. So he again travels with Natalie. He surfs. He climbs. He skis. He runs marathons. He runs sprints. And here's two little boys he was worked with. He goes a number of times a year to a place called Camp No Limits, where he works with kids and he works with military who've lost limbs. And this one I just put in because he was telling ghost stories around the campfire, and this little girl has a prosthetic leg. And look, that is just pure joy on her face. These girls came over from Africa in the villages they are from. If you are an albino African, they think you have magic powers, and they will cut off your limbs to get the magic powers. And they brought them over to give them prosthetics. So here he is. Impossible is an opinion, not a fact. And this is one of the people in my life that when I'm having one of those days, I think about Cam and I suck it up, because he is amazing to me. And this is one of his quotes: there's a lot to be happy about right now. So one of the things I want to mention before I go on, that a lot of people have said to me, your business, happy people win, you assume everybody can be happy. I go, oh no, I don't assume that. And I said, no one's just born happy. I said, if you do suffer from depression, which the rates have been going up significantly, that you need to get help or medication, whatever works for you, talk therapy, and then it evens out the playing field, and then you work like everybody else to get happy. And so I think it's important to remind people that just because depression is gone doesn't mean the opposite is, then you're happy all the time. So we can focus our brain to either look at positive or negative. So it can start very first thing that you do in the morning, because what we see depends mainly on what we look for. And research also talks about, that book talks about too, is doing a lot of quick little things throughout your day, 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, can boost your happiness at that moment, and over time it accumulates. So you want to find, I'm going to share a bunch of things, and it would be a waste if you didn't leave with a few like, okay, I need to start doing that. So I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas. So I also want to mention compassion fatigue. And the reason I got out of the alcohol and drug field was one overdose death too many. It just hit me, and I said, I cannot do it. So you can't believe what I did next. Worked in AIDS, education. So yeah, I know I didn't want to be depressed anymore. So Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about this because on top of normal work stress, compassion fatigue absolutely can affect you. And I work a lot also with animal groups. And compassion fatigue is in so many different areas, but it definitely is working in addiction and recovery. So compassion fatigue can occur to exposure. I can't read that. On one case, I can't even read it. You guys, you know what the deal is, Pete? The timer is covering up the computer. Just saying. Okay. So, Mother Teresa, she actually wrote in her plans for her nuns that every 4 or 5 years they had to take mandatory 1 year off to heal from the things that they've seen and practice health care. And some of you are saying, that's kind of wussy, I've done this for 30 years. You have to practice self-care. How can you help anybody else? Plus, for so many of you, part of your job is being a role model. So do not walk around feeling sad, but pretending everything is okay. The first intervention I was ever involved in, oh, look it, I love you guys. Hey, thanks. Because you know what, the time doesn't really matter. Because now that I'm up here, what are you going to do? It will look bad if you take me down, right? Because I said, what if I go over? And they go, no. So I don't care about the time. And if you have to leave, you can go. I'll stay here by myself. I'm totally fine with that. Me and my best friend Pete in the back. Michelle, you'll stay, won't you? Won't you please? Okay. Okay. Thanks. So think about these things. And you know who has compassion fatigue? Human beings. It's a thing. So think about this. And this is something, to me, it is astounding when companies have EAP programs and they're not utilized. I do not even understand that. I would go absolutely use it up every single year because how fun is it to have someone listen to you? So that's good. So think about this. And another thing, the second one with anger, I had gotten to the point working in the field that I was just angry and frustrated. It's like, you know, making that choice is going to end up like this. And it was hard for me. And I realized I'm not doing anybody any good if I stay in the field. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to combat compassion fatigue, reduce your stress, and increase your happiness. So here's some fast and easy fixes to start out. So every morning before I get out of bed, every morning I make a decision, am I going to have a good day or not? Every single morning I consciously think about it. I think about what's going to happen. I go, I think this is going to be fabulous. Now, I used to be about 95%, best days ever. And this year I haven't even had one pity party for Jean Day. I was going to have one in July, but I didn't have time. And this is what I was going to do, stay home all day, not shower, stay in my sweats, read a book, and I didn't have time. But today I decided it's going to be a great day. And so that means you cut me off on the freeway, you give me the stink eye, don't even bother, because I already decided to have a good day. And I've even said that to people before who are pissy. I go, you should be pissy to someone else instead because I'm already having a good day. YouTube videos. So if you're interested, I have a table out there and I have a newsletter that you can sign up for. And I put it out every month. It's free. I don't sell your email address because I don't know how. But if I learn how, I'm sorry. Come on, seriously, if I can make money, give me a break on that. But I haven't learned ever yet, so don't worry. But anyway, I have 6 2-minute videos a month in each newsletter. And so to me, if I'm having kind of a day, I pull up a YouTube video and I just laugh or I cry happy tears. And interestingly, what research says is most of the things people like are cat videos, and this next one isn't even a video, and it totally makes me laugh. Isn't that awesome? It's like the cat was sitting down looking up at the hangers and going, you know, it would be interesting to try. So.
Go to sleep, little Alice. Go to sleep,
wrong with your eyes?
I'm crying because it's good.
You're crying?
Yes, because it's good.
What's good?
Yes, with Phyllis.
Oh, Ashton, you make Mommy cry.
Oh, it's so beautiful like
It's
this.
so beautiful, I know. Oh, you're so sweet. Give her a kiss. Give her a kiss. She loves you. There we go.
Okay, breathe. Now you know when you're stressed, you go into fight or flight. The problem is that we don't need to be in fight or flight. They estimate 50 times per day. And one of the best things you can do is diaphragmatically breathe. This is my 3 a.m. wake up in the morning thinking, oh my God, I diaphragmatically breathe. I have never even been able to count to 10 breaths before I sleep again. 5 minutes, hands in soil in the garden. 6 minutes reading a book. Quiet time, meditation or prayer or whatever works for you to turn off your brain. Now, this actually is good for headaches too, but I have to tell you, I do this quite a bit, holding this point, and I've been working with this hospital down here, and I've seen people walk by me and look at me and go like this, so I know that they remembered I shared this. So obviously they're stressed. Now, this could not have happened, but I almost thought I was gonna die. This is called the tombstone technique. And when you're stressed and you're angry, think about it. Could it kill me and could it be on my tombstone? I at first thought, yes, it could kill me because this is a true story. Are you kidding? 58 minutes? But then I realized I probably won't die from waiting on the phone, so I let it go. My friend Arlene works at a hospital in elder care, and she said that she had a patient who was in her 80s who was completely paralyzed in a wheelchair. And when Arlene first met her, she goes, you don't have a tube to blow into. How do you get around? And she said, I'm so lucky. When I became paralyzed, everything is except my left foot, so I can move my wheelchair. And Arlene is thinking, this woman just said, I'm so lucky. And so Arlene says when she has a bad day, she kicks off her left shoe and wiggles her foot to remind herself how lucky she is. I like that. Have a bliss list. And these are some of the things that make me happy. And I actually have in my computer a folder for awesomeness. And I have things in there that I look at that make me happy, like this. It's actually called a blue-footed booby, which is like the best name ever. And hello, I would have had kids if I knew I could make this. Super cool. Super cool. Super cool. So it doesn't work for everybody, but this is the thing. Have a file on your computer of things that you can just look at and go, yeah, this is good. Gratitude, and I'm sure that a lot of you, especially if you're working in treatment, suggest that people write a gratitude journal, which is awesome. Body scan, whatever you need to do to check out where you're holding your stress. 30 seconds pressing on the bones of your cheeks will reduce your stress. Finding something to look forward to. And what research shows is oftentimes the anticipation is even better than the event. And so I knew that driving down here, I live on the Central Coast, it was a little stressful. I don't even understand if people work down here because the traffic is crazy. So I always say when I come down here, I'm gonna go to this, because I work a lot with a hospital down here, so I worked with them already this week, and I thought I'm gonna go get a massage, and I've gotten like 2 in the last 6 months because I never have time to or I'm too tired, but I'm always excited about it. Next week I'm getting a massage, and no one can take away that anticipation. So, guess what I'm doing in October? Do you know what this is? Rice Festival. So for 5 years, you guys, I've wanted to go. I'm going in October. So for 5 years, I've been totally excited. And if I go and it isn't so great, it won't take away the excitement, but I think it's going to be fabulous. It's in the Mojave Desert. So fun. So guess what else I'm doing? I'm going to work with Jane Goodall Institute in February for a month. And this is the thing. I've wanted to do this for so long, and I scheduled it. So I am so excited. Now, I also want to share something else with you. So I was telling one of my friends that I was going to be doing this, and she goes, "You're so lucky." I said, "Why?" She goes, "That you can do that." I go, "Why can't you?" She goes, "Well, I can't afford it." And I go, "Really?" I said, "Let's talk about your expenses." And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "So how often do you go to Starbucks?" She goes, "That's not fair." I go, "How often?" She goes, "I have to go to Starbucks." I said, "Oh, I don't think so. I don't think it's a law." So we figured out the cost of that every day. Then she has a housekeeper, comes once a week. It's just her and her son. Really? Now, if that's your favorite thing, then go for it. But don't tell me that you can't afford to go to Uganda. Just saying. And she gets her nails done. I said, and she goes, "Okay, we can stop." And so we figured out in 6 months, she could go to Uganda. So this is the thing, you guys, it's about priorities. And that's the cool thing, we all have choices. So, proven ways to lift your spirits. Have adventures. Now, I already told you I enjoy adventures. So what I suggest that people do is they make a list of the things that they want to do and see. And they go do them. And it doesn't have to be, I'm going to do every single thing this year. It means one of these days, I'm going to do it. And I had a woman, I was doing a training, and she got there late, and I didn't know this company. So she got there late, and I said, "Are you okay?" She goes, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I said, "It's okay." And I said, "What's going on?" And the class was already going, but I needed to know because she seemed stressed. And she goes, "Oh, sorry, I own a ranch, and one of the cows had went into labor last night, and unfortunately it was not good. We had to call the vet around 2 in the morning, and then the mom passed away, and it was just horrible." And I said, "I am so sorry." I said, "So where's the baby cow?" She goes, "In my house." And I went, "You have a baby cow in your house?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "It's on my bucket list to play with the baby cow." And she goes, "Oh." She didn't even invite me. She goes, "Oh." And I went, "Can I come over?" And she goes, "Yeah, I guess." I said, "Can I live with you?" And she said no. She wasn't that nice. So I drove 2 hours to play with the baby cow. It was so much fun. And it's just walking around. All of a sudden it starts jumping around like, "I'm so happy to be a cow." Totally made me happy. So I made it happen because I pushed her. Now I'm sure she loves me. So I bought this book. Have any of you ever looked at this book? It's awesome, isn't it? So it has weird, random things to do, and I travel all over the United States, and I go to them, like there is a Parthenon in Nashville. And what? Our city council won't even pay for anything, and someone obviously came up and said, "We need $65 million to build a Parthenon." They go, "Cool," and they have a Parthenon. Look, I was in Louisville, Kentucky, world's largest bat. You have to go see that. This is in Spokane. It's super fun. I asked our city manager to get one, and he said something about homeless sleeping in them. But it's just super fun. And I wanted to get one for my yard, but they're a little pricey. Okay. So another thing I wanted to share with you is about creating experiences. And research overwhelmingly shows, and I think we can agree, more than tangible items, we like experiences. So companies that instead of just giving them, an umbrella with their company logo on it for a special occasion, realize that creating experiences are much more fulfilling. So about 20 years ago, I decided I'm not going to give my siblings tangible items. We don't need any more crap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a date night. So I give all my siblings a date night. So this is our 19th year coming up that my sister Annie and I have gone to see Keith Urban. We go every year, 19 years. And it's so much more fun, and we look forward to it all year round, and I get to spend 2 uninterrupted days with my sister, and it's super fun. So this is my sister who does my artwork, who is the air ambulance nurse. And one of the reasons I believe, again, that she is so good at what she does is she makes sure she has fun. And she jumps horses over things, and she loves it. So I'm reminding you, you need to do the things you love to do. If you say, I love to go camping, I haven't gone in like 10 years, why? Put it on your calendar. I learned about stress management from my kids. Every night after work, I drink chocolate milk, eat sugary cereals straight from the box, and run around the house in my underwear, squealing like a monkey. Remember when we used to do that in junior high? So much fun. In Australia. Okay, here's another super fun thing. So this is something my assistant and I do when we travel. So we go into a thrift store and we each have $10 to buy the other person something that they have to wear all the next day. So I'm going to show you the picture, and I have to tell you, I allowed her to put on tights, change her shoes, because somehow those stilettos didn't work well. But this is us. I know. That gold skirt was only $2. Best deal ever. So it's so stupid, but it's fun. How many of you are going to do that? Yeah. And you know what? And that outfit I wear all the time because you have to admit, people would look at me and I'd go, I know, I'm a, what did I call myself? I said something, that I help people pick out their clothes. And no one hired me, but whatever. Okay, so another thing I do is I wear wigs all the time, just for fun. And I will tell you, this is my friend Haley and I went to an event and we wore, she goes, wigs? I went, duh. So people were coming up to us and going, chemo? We went, wig day. And they go, what? And I go, today's wig day. And they go, I didn't know that. And I go, we made it up. I can make up a holiday. Why not? Okay, so develop an attitude of gratitude. I was 6 years old. I was living in Los Angeles. My dad graduated with a master's degree in herpetology, and he decides that the best job would be cop. So herpetology is snakes and lizards. So he becomes a cop, and I have a 4, 3, and 1-year-old sister, white blonde hair, living in LA in the early 60s, Watts riots, racial issues going on. And my dad's patrolling the streets and he meets a black man with an unusual outfit on. He sees him, so he pulls over, he goes, what is that? He said, it's a native attire from my country, which is Ethiopia. And my dad talks to him for about a half an hour and says, would you like to come over for dinner? Because I am really fascinated by this. And the guy goes, okay. So he comes over for dinner, and my dad talks to him till like 2 in the morning. And my dad is fascinated. And when the man leaves, he says to my dad, you should come visit my country. And my dad goes, okay. And in 1964, he moved us to Ethiopia. Now, if I asked you today to move to Ethiopia in a year, you would freak. This was way before computers. And we had the most magical childhood. My brother was born there. My brother graduated in an island in the Pacific called Kwajalein, which is 3 miles by a half a mile. He finally came back to the United States. They have no cars over there. He got 6 speeding tickets in a month, and I shipped him back overseas. But this is the thing. I am grateful every single day for what I have living in the United States, and especially for living in California. And I am not minimizing anything any of you are going through, but man, we have hope here. And I think it's important to remember that there are people, when you're thinking, oh, I'm starving, what's for dinner? We're not starving here. You are not starving. There are people who are. And so for me, I live every day. I am so thankful for my childhood because I live every single day grateful. Every single day, can you believe this? After all these years, when I turn on the faucet and I can drink out of the tap, I get happy. My sisters both got hepatitis from drinking out of the tap when we were over there. My dad got malaria, and yet we were still so fortunate. And Ethiopians, to me, are the most beautiful people in the world, and we really were fortunate. And we saw things that I am forever grateful for. Came home one day, baboon in the yard. This was our family yacht. I learned very young not to put your hands in the water because of hippos and crocodiles. My dad was a herpetologist, so we never had normal pets. And I love this pictures of my little sister who wanted to play. So I have to tell you something funny. I just thought of this. When we got there, the Ethiopian kids would play soccer in front of our house with a dried, blown-up cow bladder. And so my dad contacted the police in LA, and they started a police athletic league. And they all had filthy clothes with brand new tennis shoes and soccer balls, and it was awesome. So this is what I do every single night before I go to sleep. I think of 3 things that happened during the day that I am grateful for, and that's how I fall asleep. I do not think about negative stuff. I think of 3 really super cool things that happened. And sometimes it's so simple. Like, this must be lizard season because I have these lizards in my yard. I am not kidding. They're like 1 inch. They're the cutest things ever. Totally makes me happy. Stop complaining. You are exhausting us. You think this is you. This is how we see you. So, if this was a sign in some of your offices, you'd be broke, some of you. Right? So, I'm going to teach you something that I made up that seriously, I think you'll really like. Hey, what time am I supposed to be done? Whenever you want. Thank you. No, I'll eventually be done, probably by midnight. Okay, so I was coming home from New York, and I was tired, time change. I'm driving home. I pull into my driveway, bang. I get out. Well, I had hired a guy to make a patio, and he left his trailer with the pointy thing that hooks on his truck. He left it in my driveway, and the pointy thing went straight through my car. And guess what's inside a Camry? Floral foam and plastic. Giant hole. So I pull up, it sucks it out. It's like that big. Are you kidding me? It's like 1 a.m. Go in my house, totally not happy, fall asleep, have to get up early, not a morning person. I'm driving up to San Luis Obispo. Well, I get out to my car and I pop open the trunk to get something, and the trunk won't close because there's a giant hole. So I'm driving up to slow, and my trunk is like boom, 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 boom. Every car, I am not kidding, drives by and honk. I know. Every car. So I am just like, ugh. So I start pushing buttons. You know how you have automatic numbers programmed in. No one would answer until my friend Jessica answered, and she's a DJ. So I went, how are you answering? She goes, I just put a song on, you have 3 minutes. I said, okay, I just made up a game. It's called, now, let me explain what it's really called, and then I'll go back to this. So you can play it as wah, wah, but let me tell you, research shows that profanity is really good for you. And I personally love profanity. So what I call the game is this. And I say the words, but if you are pure, we'll go back to this. So I called Jessica, and I go, okay, I just made up this game. It's called Wah Wah, Shut the F Up. She goes, I love it already. I said, this is how we're playing. I'm going to tell you all the things I'm frustrated about, and you're going to say Wah Wah, Shut the F Up, and tell me why I'm being a baby. She goes, I love it. I said, okay, first of all, I got home really late from New York. Time change, I was exhausted. She goes, you spoke for 1 hour, and you were there 7 days. Wah Wah. I went, okay, that might be legit. So then I said, I get home, my stupid patio guy leaves the thing there. And she goes, wah, wah. I go, what? Because that's not a wah, wah. She goes, you know how most people have patios done? They do it themselves. I didn't even know that. So apparently I was being a big baby. And then I finally went, I'm done. She goes, no, I love it. Let's play more. No, I'm done. But you guys, this is the thing. So many times we complain about things that other people would love to just have that problem in their lives. So I like this game. Do you like it? Okay. You're going to use bad words? You guys are. Okay. So I spoke at a Rotary Club, and they gave me as a thank you an egg timer with rotary engraved on it. Thanks, guys. But this is what I do. You come in my office and go, guess what? Flip, go. People go, what do you mean? I go, you have 3 minutes, you're wasting it. That's all you can complain. And I love this. And I've given these out to managers before. One of them told me that people will walk in her office and go, flip it, because they're going to complain. Otherwise, you know you have employees who come in and just go on and on and on. Flip, go. And then sometimes they've said, you have some more sand left. Is there anything else you'd like to complain about? So ask yourself, will complaining about it change anything? And ask your employees when they come in, wah, wah, what's going to happen if you complain? I'm good if you come in with a solution, but don't just come in and complain. Do something about it. Commit conscious acts of kindness. And this just isn't holding the door open for someone without thinking. This is consciously doing something kind. 5 a day, at least. And don't think I can't do it, because yes, you can. So I'll give you some examples of things I do. I work a lot in healthcare. I believe that healthcare is owned by Starbucks, because every time I speak, they give me Starbucks cards. And I don't drink coffee, but this is what I do. I'll go into a Starbucks. I'll say I'd like shaken iced tea. Please use the card until it runs out on everybody else in line. You would think I was giving people $1 million. And I give a lot of cards to my nephew, and he goes, you know, I can't afford that, but when they hand me my card back and say, here's $1.68, and he hands it to the person behind them and says, enjoy, he goes, Aunt Jeannie, it isn't even $2, and people are super excited. I said, we're not used to kindness anymore. Now, I also love animals. I keep rawhide bones in my trunk, so if I see a homeless person with a dog, they don't get treats, so I'll give them I took that picture of his dog. I also used to pay for the cars right behind me through tolls, but they drive like maniacs to catch up with you, and it's very stressful. So to thank you, so now I say 3 cars behind. And there's a lot of little things you can do. The fragrance always remains on the hand that gives the rose. Enjoy nature. And this does not mean taking a walk around your parking lot. They say in 15 minutes in nature, you can go from fight or flight back to homeostasis. Calm down. Listening to sounds of nature. My friend has a beach house, and they always make fun of me because I don't care what the temperature is. That window is always open because I love to hear the sound of the ocean. Plants in your office will also reduce your stress, not fake ones. This is my office phone. You cannot have a bad conversation on my Prince's phone. Now, I don't understand. So I was at the hospital yesterday I told you I was working at, and this woman wanted to show me her cubicle, and it was so fun. And this guy goes, you should see mine. And I went over and I go, how long have you been here? He goes, I like stark. Don't like anything showing. He goes, right now I think my desk is a mess because of that piece of paper. That's kind of issue. But the whole thing is, we spend a lot of time in our offices. Why don't we surround ourselves with positivity? I have flowers on my desk every single day. Trader Joe's, $3.99. This is in my bathroom, and people always say to me, I think those are Christmas ornaments. I go, they are. They go, you leave them up all year? I go, it's my house. I can do what I want. And it makes me happy. And I live in Napomo, California, where you can leave your tree up all year. I have a boa tree in my office. You all need a boa tree in your office, because some days you just need to wear a boa. Over all of my doors, I have gentle reminders. Every day. This is so simple, and it totally makes me happy. So I'm not saying you have to spend a ton of money. Little things that you can do to bring a smile to someone's face. Prioritize your to-do list. And my to-do list, I don't know if I'll get it done in my lifetime. It's very stressful. But what I try to do is prioritize so I get the most important things that really need to be done. Here's a priority. Wake up, be fabulous, sleep, and repeat. Simplify your life. Now, this, if you're into it and you say, I can't wait to wake up in the morning and make my bed and put my pillows on, awesome. But if you live like this and you go, God, I have to make my bed, or God, I have to water all these plants, then this is stressful. This picture stresses me out. So simplify. This is a lot of dusting. It's very stressful. Some of you don't even know or have never used this word. Yesterday, I made this lady say it, because as soon as I brought this slide up, they all looked at her, and I go, oh, you don't say no? She goes, oh, I'm sure I do. And they go, no, you don't. So we made her say it. So this is my simplest. I have to tell you, I saw Hazelton out there, and I used to show this great Hazelton video for recovery on assertiveness. And so one of my favorite tips on assertiveness is simply yes to the person, no to the task. So a lot of us won't say no because we don't want to hurt feelings. So this is what I say. I love you. No, I'm not going to do that. To let them know, it isn't you. I just don't want to do that. And I've had people say, just tell me you're busy. I go, I'm not. Don't take it personally. It just doesn't sound like fun. I don't have a TV, and I will tell you, it makes me happier. When I'm in a hotel, I kind of binge watching stupid shows, like Hoarders. Have you ever seen that? I watched 6 hours of it when I was in a hotel once. And you don't feel like, well, you feel a little superior, but it took a lot of my time. So I do not watch TV, and I read what's going on, but it doesn't affect me as much emotionally and make me as sad as if I see pictures. Exercise. This is in San Diego, and when I was speaking down there, this guy in my group, he goes, I work out there. I said, he goes, it isn't like the escalator's always working. So this is something most of you can try in here. What research shows is 3 minutes of dancing around will reduce your stress, improve morale. So some of the places I work will pipe 80s music randomly throughout the building a couple times a day, and people just stop and dance, and it is hysterical, especially when people can't dance. It's super fun. You guys can do that. Yoga. Here's my yoga cartoon. Who knows how many years of yoga, and they still can't even lick their own behinds. So the next one is find your purpose. And the Japanese have a lovely term for this. It's called ikigai. And ikigai means a few different things. And one of the questions that it asks is, why are you here? And why do you get up in the morning? What is your purpose? Which is a pretty deep thought. So ikigai is a combination, ideally, of what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And if your work, this is one of the fields that I believe, if you're in this field, it's probably your ikigai. It is your reason. But a lot of places that I work with a company that makes spices. It is not anybody's ikigai. So what I also say is you can have more. So for example, with me, I love my job. I can't even tell you, I love every part of it. I know it is my ikigai, but I also have others. And this quote, the 2 most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Isn't that fabulous? So another part of this, especially for people whose work is not their ikigai, is to find your cause. And this quote fits it perfectly for me. Commit yourself to something bigger than yourself. And what can that be? So many different things for different people. So, social proof. People's behavior is largely shaped by what is done by those around them. And you know, especially if you work in rehab and recovery, that part of the reason, maybe the main reason, that it works or that 12-step works is because you are surrounded with like-minded people, and they are your role models and you are theirs. So about maybe 3 years ago, I had a friend staying with me whose daughter was looking at Cal Poly, which is San Luis Obispo, and we were having breakfast, and she was looking at some of the things in my pantry. She goes, "You have things with palm oil." I go, "What does that mean?" And I have to tell you, I consider myself pretty environmentally savvy. I did not know what she was talking about, which was very embarrassing for me. I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, the only place orangutans are found in the entire world is Indonesia. And they are on the critically endangered list, and they are 97% our DNA." And she said they estimate in 10 years there will be 0 left in the wild. What? So I immediately started doing research. I found, yeah, I know. And I found Orangutan Outreach, which is kind of a clearinghouse in the United States that gathers money and sends it over to Indonesia, Sumatra, and Borneo. So I immediately adopted baby Rakina, and I have people say, "Where is she?" "She's in my car." "Where do you think?" "She's in Indonesia." And automatic $10 deduction doesn't hurt me. So I kind of get involved in these groups, and I'm on Facebook one day, and this thing pops up. And it says, "We are inviting 10 people from around the world to come to Indonesia to live in the rainforest and learn about conservation and see orangutans in the wild." And I thought, I can do that. So I went over with my sisters and a couple of friends, and some lovely people joined our group from England. We flew 13 hours to Tokyo. We flew 7 hours to Jakarta, 3 hours to Medan, like 5-hour van to the rainforest, and about 150-hour, maybe not quite, walk into the rainforest. And I say, I almost died 3 times, and my sister goes, "You asked to die 3 times. But I could have died. It was very dangerous. And it was life-changing. First of all, to see an orangutan in the wild was huge for me. And it was amazing, bathing with the elephants in the river. And I put the spider, my dad was a herpetologist, but you have to admit it's a beautiful spider. It was amazing and life-changing. So what I learned is, I came back. I virtually adopted this one. Again, how can you say no? And I want to show you, can you guys click on this? I want to show you how human-like they are. It's dinner time. Finally! Isn't that great? Okay, so here's my thing. Say no to palm oil. If not us, who? If not now, when? How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment for starting to improve the world. Be creative. Now, the good news is we are all born creative. Now, when you are being creative, you're in a psychological state of flow. And when you're in flow, you're not thinking about money or relationships or stressors. I take cake decorating classes at Michael's. I swear they're 5 minutes. The time goes so fast, and she goes, okay, start packing up. And I go, are you kidding? Because we are in flow. So here's some examples of creativity. Now, if you have kids this age, this isn't funny, but she drew hearts on baby sister's forehead, so she does love her. Genius. This is the back of his head, which is both creepy and super cool. These are hands. Now, the next one is to remind you, just because it's creative doesn't mean it's good. Shaving your favorite NASCAR driver on your back hair? No. Okay, here's another one, guys. On creativity. A video? Yeah.
What is this?
A zebra.
What?
A zebra.
That's really silly, babe.
But I love a zebra.
Yeah, but your sister doesn't need to be a zebra, babe.
But I love being zebras.
That's creative. Slow your pace. I absolutely agree with this. And it's funny, years ago, one of my college students asked if she could use my phone. And I handed it to her, and I was talking to someone else, and she goes, it isn't working. I go, yeah, it is. And she goes, look. And I go, turn it on. She goes, you turn your phone off? I go, you don't? She goes, I've never turned my phone off. I said, I guess I'm not that important. But for me, sometimes I just need to turn it down. I need the quiet. And what we need to do is we need to find more space in our calendars that we're not doing anything. And I remember when I was working in alcohol and drug rehab, I was on 6 boards. And it was the same people who was on every single board. Because we wanted, we have to save the world. And I love helping, but I also love my quiet time. So what you need to do is you need to find the space that you can relax. Do I have anybody on the Central Coast here? So you know those swing sets in Pismo Beach? Oh yeah. Sometimes there's kids on them and I have to push them off because they don't have stress. But I love it. And I don't care, kicking off my shoes, feet in the sand, I don't care if it's an ugly day or not, being on the beach makes me happy. So if you're not near the beach, you have to find a place that works for you. And it can be indoors, it can be in your bathroom, it can be anywhere. But what you need to do is you need to find your spot that you can just relax. Reserve a part of the day for you. Put yourself in your calendar. Laugh. How many of you, this is your go-to? Yeah, without a doubt, this is mine. So let's say that you have a 3-year-old, either a grandchild or your own, and you say, okay, we're leaving in 5 minutes, we're going to Target. And comes out, I don't have any clothes. Yes, you do have clothes, bottom drawer. Comes out, I don't have any underwear. And you're going, listen, we are leaving in 1 minute. If you do not come out here dressed, we are not going. And they come out. So, do you have a meltdown and say we're not going? Or do you say, good enough, put on some shoes, we're going to Target? Because this would be my best day ever, seeing this kid at Target. So think of how you react to things. Are you having a meltdown? You might want to have him wear a belt, but otherwise, I think it's fabulous. Unless you are a psychopath, you love to hear children laugh. So here is one of my favorites. silly baby. Does Mommy's nose scare you when I blow it? Does that scare you when Mommy blows her nose? Yeah? Silly baby. Awesome. Smile. Even a forced smile will release endorphins. Okay, here's another video.
Why are you smiling like that?
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
Make work your favorite. That's your favorite, okay?
Okay.
Work is your new favorite.
Fine.
You probably came in contact with someone who has an infectious smile. Music therapy, so many positives. And one of the things that I was speaking at a conference, and a man was speaking who made a movie about Glenn Campbell and his Alzheimer's, and we were talking about it, and Glenn Campbell could not remember any of his children's names, but he could remember every single guitar lick from all of his songs, and it's the last thing to go. So music is so important. Here's another video.
Eu só tô ficando, bêbado, travado, em geral pegando. Tô namorando não, eu só tô ficando, bêbado, travado, em geral pegando.
Foot action, air guitar. So cute. Eat well. So, this might not make you happy. Few things to avoid when you're stressed. When you drink caffeine when you're already stressed, you're going to be more stressed because caffeine mimics the stress response. Another thing when you're stressed, and another thing to avoid when you're stressed. I was working at an architectural firm, and an architect said to me, not that I'm an expert, but I think those are the 3 major food groups. Now, this is the happy dance news. Right? Dark chocolate, green tea. There's a lot of things that are actually good to help you reduce your stress. Who's your dream team? And for me, one of the most important things is to surround myself with people who have my back, who I unconditionally love. Spend time with those who support you. So my friend told me something cool, and I really like this analogy. She said that she was going through a divorce, and she called me. She goes, I want to tell you, you're in my nest. And I go, what does that mean? And she said, I want to surround myself in my cozy little nest with people who love me. And I love that concept, so I called my sister and I said, will you draw a picture of people in a nest? And I want to tell you another little story. I was speaking at a conference, and right before, my sister Annie texted me, and she said, I love you to the moon and back. So I was sharing it with the group, and this woman came up to me afterwards, and she goes, I love that you said that. And I go, I know. And she said, I did it immediately after you said it. I texted my sister while you were still speaking and told all 3 of them separately that I love them. I went, awesome. And she goes, do you want to see what they said? I said, yeah. First one, oh my God, call me. Second one, I'm worried. All 3 of them were freaking out. She goes, I guess I don't tell them enough. And I go, apparently not. So I love getting those random texts. I love having my support team in my nest. Pet therapy, absolutely 100%. My therapy is quite simple. I wag my tail and lick your face till you feel good about yourself again. So benefits of pet therapy: lowers blood pressure, reduces stress symptoms, requires less medical care, and adds years to life. 15 to 30 minutes petting an animal will reduce your stress. Even watching fish swim, which might be a good addition for a lot of your organizations. How can this not make you smile? Pets decrease loneliness. So if you think, you know what, I'm motivated on my way home from this conference, I'm going to stop at the Humane Society. First of all, Look at labeled good dog, bad dog. Animals and children posed by the scene of the crime. This one I love because the dog went back into the room like, I don't even know what happened. I've been here all day. Oh. Oh, look at the head in the back. Okay, video.
Okay, babe, so it's freaking 5 o'clock after a long day studying. That's what I come home to. Trash has been gone through. It's my fault. I left it kind of full. So my question is, who did it? Who's the culprit? We got a couple options. Let's see. We got Jeff, and we got Zena. What about Tank? I wonder if Tank had anything to do with it. Tank, do you know about the trash?
You think it's Tank?
Do you know anything about the trash, Tank? Because I don't know who could have done something like that. I mean, you're the adult. You're in charge.
Okay. Relax. This isn't... Oh, I don't have the big... Never mind. So don't overthink. So as a woman, I can tell you what research shows is that, shockingly, women often overthink things. Do you need to process that? So men, here's a tip. If you ever want to know what a woman's mind feels like, imagine a browser with 2,857 tabs open all the time. Hey, if you're interested, there's 2 great books, one called The Female Brain and one called The Male Brain. And it was so interesting to me. And one of the things it was saying is when a woman's head hits the pillow versus a man's at night, when a man's head hits the pillow, he tends to fall asleep in less than a minute. Women, we have to process. So we have to process the day, the week, our lives. And so it takes us so much longer. Reduce your stress. Oh, I showed you that one. So identify self-imposed stress. And this is very interesting for me because I work with a lot of businesses and we talk about these things. And one business in particular was bringing it to me. This woman goes, so my biggest stressor is I'm in charge of the potlucks and there's people who don't bring things and it's very stressful. I go, do you volunteer to be in charge? Yes, I do. I go, then shut up. And I said, or don't volunteer. Because I think she volunteers because she likes to complain. Because no one wants to be in charge of potlucks. There's always someone who brings something healthy and ruins it for everybody else. And so this is my thing. Identify the things. You get stressed out because, I always volunteer to bring food for the PTA meetings. Well, don't. So stop that. Stop raising your hand for every single freaking thing that comes up in your organization. The potlucks. It's like, oh, I volunteer more than anybody else. Well, good. So develop a stress-hardy personality. And there's interesting research on this, and I wanted to share that these are the commonalities that they find of people who handle stress well. One is having a strong commitment. So if you have a single source of significance in your life, let's say your entire life is your children or your partner or your job, and you lose that, then you are not doing well. So what you need to do is you need to build up the sources of significance. So if you retire, you still have so many things that you love. If your children go away to school, you have so many things. If your relationship ends, if you just have one thing, that can be dangerous. So also, do not have all your sources of significance being, well, I have it so much worse than you. Well, I was diagnosed with cancer. I've had it 3 times. And there's people who try to beat you at everything. And stop it. Do not be proud of being, I'm more busy than anybody else in the whole office. Have a sense of control. Now, there's something called internal locus of control and external locus. So do you feel that you control your destiny or others do? And if you feel that you control it, obviously you are less stressed. So if you say, you know what, my parents were both addicts and so there's nothing I can do. Instead thinking, I'm going to take control of this. I have internal locus of control. Seeing change as a challenge instead of something negative as something positive. Participating in creative activities. And finally, having a strong support network. And those things equal a stress-hardy personality. So a few other things along with compassion fatigue: talking to someone, taking time off, take your vacations. I am not impressed when people say, I have like 3,482 vacation days I haven't used. You need to. Join a support group and network here. It always amazes me when people go to conferences and you sit with your people that you work with every day. You should be going up to people you don't know and go up and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and network, because you are going to meet some fabulous people. Get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And if you talk to someone and they're not nice to you, you find me and I'll go talk to them, because that's not nice. Okay. Oops, are you on your to-do list? I spoke at a nursing conference, and I said, how many of you are at the bottom of your to-do list? And this woman yelled, we're nurses. We're not even on our own to-do list. Find your personal prescription, and this is a great thing for your clients as well. What do you need every day to know that you're going to have a good day? What 5 things? So how many of you, if you do not have your coffee, it is not going to be a good day? Okay, so you wake up and you're out of it. This is not good. So you need to anticipate and figure out what your things are. So let me share mine with you. Flowers every single day. If I'm in a hotel for more than 3 days, I bring flowers. Hugs every single day. I'm a big hugger. I hugged 18 TSA agents at SeaTac. That's how well I hug. Animals, these are my 2. Every single day, I see people with animals. I say, may I get some puppy or cat kisses? And I do. I have to laugh every single day. Again, if I'm by myself in the house, I go on YouTube. And the final thing I need every single day, even though I'm a strong, independent woman, is my boyfriend. I am of the belief that both people in a relationship don't have to be aware of it. Do you like that? How many of you, when you think about it, think, well, wait a minute, I think I have a boyfriend too. We're very happy. It's so outdated thinking both people have to know. Okay, so let's finish up with happy at work. Your jobs are inherently stressful. So if you've been in this field and you're going, wow, I didn't know it would be so stressful, well, then you didn't do your homework. But you also can have the highest of highs when things go well. So become a change agent. Instead of just complaining about something, what can you do to change it? Here's an idea. Then Kaufman made a motion that we sell the conference tables and chairs and buy a hot tub. Remember why you do what you do. I mean, how fulfilling is that? You are making a difference every single day. Every day. Create a culture of kindness at work. So here's some tips of things that I've learned from some of the companies I've worked with. I work at a dental office, and the receptionist makes these beautiful little floral arrangements. And she used to keep it at the front desk, and people said, we want to enjoy it too. So they instituted something called traveling bouquet. And every half day, you move the bouquet to someone else's desk. So they come in from lunch, and they go, someone's thinking of me. And I love that idea. Simple pleasures file. I have this in the handouts. I have handouts on the website. And I have this, a worksheet, because I was working at a college and they did the Secret Santa. And what one of the secretaries did, she kept all the Secret Santa lists of little things that people enjoy. And she kept it on her desk, and you see that Mary's having a bad day, and you go see what Mary enjoys, and you buy her a Snickers bar and put it on her desk. And I worked with PG&E, and they had over 800 of their employees fill this out in binders, and I love that. Relate stories of random acts of kindness. At your staff meetings or any meetings that you have, say, let's start out, share a random act of kindness to remind people to do that. When you're feeling overwhelmed, say so. If you are a true team, you can come into work and say, I am this far from having a meltdown. Have my back. And if you need help, ask for it. Don't give power to toxic, negative people. So I'm sure you're familiar with this story, but there's a great story about a Native American man telling his grandson that inside all of us there are two wolves that are fighting for dominance. And one of the wolves is hatred, negativity, jealousy, prejudice. And the other is love, compassion, empathy, and there's a continual battle. And the grandson says, well, Grandpa, which one wins? And the grandfather replies, the one that you feed. So what are you feeding? Take personal responsibility. I absolutely believe this. Don't take things personally. I know this is a hard one, and I'm glad you're sitting down, but the world does not revolve around you. We can make those EAP appointments, huh? Don't give one person the power to ruin your day. Check your attitude. So I hire people based on attitude. Of course, I want a certain level of requirements, but the most important thing to me, because I can't teach you to have a positive attitude, is your attitude. Behavioral-based hiring. So the definition is a way you mentally look at the world around you. It's how you view your environment and your future, and the focus you develop towards life itself. So it affects everything that we do. And in fact, we identify people by their attitude. In the metropolis of Nipomo, where I live, we have Vons, and there's a woman at the store we call the nice one. And so what are you called? If someone calls your boss and says, I don't remember their name, they were really rude, will they go, oh, yeah, I know who it is? Right? And it doesn't have to fit with our life circumstances. So I want to tell you another story about my friend Kristen, who is amazing. So over 10 years ago, she was single, living on the Central Coast, and she started dating a young man who was stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base, near where we live. And Dan was deployed after about 6 months after they met, and he was coming home in about August of 2009, and she hadn't been feeling well, but she goes, I'm 21 years old, what can go wrong? Her mom finally made her go to the doctors, and they did some tests, and she went back in on June 5th, and while he is over in the Middle East, she finds out that she has cancer, and she is absolutely shocked. How can I'm healthy, I do everything right, why did this happen to me? So of course, Dan can't come back. He can barely communicate with her at all, and she goes in and has surgery, chemo, and radiation. So note the day she was diagnosed, June 5th. So Dan comes back in August, and first of all, she starts a support group for young cancer survivors once she finishes her treatments. And Dan comes back and asks Kristen to marry him. And she goes, I want to get married on June 5th, because that is the worst day of my entire life, the day I was diagnosed with cancer, and I want to make it the best day of my life. Look at that attitude. So, June 5th, 2010, they get married. And again, her positivity is amazing to me. So 6 weeks later, Dan has to go back just for a short amount of time. And on October 5th, 5 months after the wedding, she gets a knock on the door. And her husband had been killed. And look, he was so young. So of course, she is so sad and upset. And Kristen being Kristen, she starts a young widows and widowers support group because she was going to attend, and most of the people were in their 70s and 80s, so she started it for young people. And on June 5th, her wedding anniversary, which also is her cancerversary, she goes back to be checked, and her cancer is back. So we have lunch, and I am crying, and I said, I'm so sorry. She goes, about what? And I go, everything. And she goes, Jean, don't feel sorry for me. She goes, I met and married my soulmate. How many people can say that? And I think that's true. So she went to a fertility doctor because she thought, I can't risk it. I want to have children. And she went, and they said, you should have come before the first round of chemo and radiation. You don't have any eggs left. And she says, okay, I will adopt if I survive this. So she goes in for surgery, and again, she feels that she is so lucky through this. Now, I'm the ultimate optimist. I was worried. I did not think she was going to make it. She was so sick. And on October 2012, she said was one of the best days of her life because she got a little backpack that her infusions could go in so she could leave the hospital and sometimes even go outside. Look, she looks like a little boy there. So update. Here she is at her cancer-free party, looking like a supermodel in the blue with a wig, fake eyebrows and eyelashes. She starts dating Dan's best friend, who's also a bomb demolition expert, to which I replied, there's other jobs. And December 18, 2013, oh yeah, they were wrong. She had little Evie, and there she is with her mom and dad. And now, there she is, a big girl, and with her daddy, and oh yeah, they were wrong again. And this is the thing, she motivates me every day because that is a hard one. I can look at the positive side, but she had so much bad in her life, and she turned it around as, I'm so lucky. So she did something which a lot of you are familiar with, which is called post-traumatic growth, that you've gone through something really tough, and instead of it getting you down, you go, you know what? I'm going to change the world as a result of this happening to me. Oops. Do not let this happen to you. This is depressing. I can't work next to Phil anymore. I'm tired of inhaling secondhand stress. So understand this whole thing that I've been talking to you about is to let you know that you have the power to do things. That don't think, gosh, I wish I could do that, or I can't do that because of this. I believe that you can do anything. And I remember a judge, I was teaching a class at a college, and we were going around to say one goal, and this guy goes, not to go to prison. And I went, come on. He goes, no, I've been, and I don't want to go back. And I went, oh, okay. And so I talked to him afterwards. I said, why are you in my class? He goes, the judge told me I should. And I said, really, how come? He said, because he said you believe people are inherently good and they can change their lives. And I thought, that makes me a little sad that everybody isn't like that. You have power. I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. So, my final thoughts. Maintain perspective. You guys, it's always going to be something. Just when you say, like, what else could happen, it's going to happen. Now, this is in Nigeria, and the UN brought in bags of flour and rice to give to the people who were starving, and they dropped a bag of flour, and they picked it up and took it with them. This little boy ate what he could and brought the rest home to his mother. Just something to think about. I made this up. I don't know if it'll catch on, but I like it. It's the best philosophy, isn't it? Appreciate simple pleasures, the little things that you just go, this is awesome. I absolutely believe this. So UCSB is not a dry campus, and back in the day there was a wine called Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill, and it was bad going down, worse coming up. And as a result, I cannot stand even the smell of wine. So I love champagne glasses, champagne flutes and wine glasses. And so I drink my milk in the morning out of it, and it tastes so good. And I drink my Diet Cokes in the afternoon, so good. And someone said, do you have umbrellas? No, I didn't. So now I have a wine glass with umbrella. Tastes so good. It's a simple pleasure. Appreciate the world around you. It is an amazing world. I found this great quote by Graham Nash. There really is a kind of insane beauty around us all the time. It's just a question of learning to slow down, take a deep breath, and meet the moment. Don't be these guys. Oh, I can remember when that sort of thing meant a lot to me. So, my last thing. I was working at a home health care agency during Nurses Week, probably about 10 years ago. And one of the nurses told me an amazing story. They had a client who was getting hospice care, end of life, and she had had a stroke, and as a result, she was not able to move and speak. So she was bedridden her final days. So how they would communicate with her is every day they would write on a clipboard, how do you feel, hand her the clipboard and the pen, and some days, even by the end of the 12-hour shift, she was too weak to write anything. Other days, she would write a smile or a sad face. And one day, she picked up the pen, and it took her almost 10 minutes to write this. And I have it framed in my office. They asked her, how do you feel? And her response was, in her spidery script, I'd like to run wild. And it made me cry. And it made me cry because 3 days later, she passed. But what made me really sad is for all of us who are too sophisticated or too educated or too whatever to run wild. I do every single day. I have no regrets when it is my time. And I really encourage you that whatever works for you, that why aren't we having more fun? Why aren't we hugging more? Why aren't we laughing more? This is a pretty crazy world right now. And me as the ultimate optimist have been a little scared in like the last year and a half. And so this is the thing. I really encourage you to go up and talk to someone you don't know here. Be kind. So I wrote a book called I'd Like to Run Wild that I do have a table out there with some. It's a workbook. And I also, oddly enough, wrote a book on customer service because I travel a lot, and it really makes me happy if someone gives me bad customer service and I go, yeah, don't worry about it. It's a really good story, and I'm going to share it at the next conference I speak at. Oh, I'm on Instagram now. And then I just told this group, and they go, no one calls it Instagram. I go, really? What do they call it? And they go, IG. I went, oh my God, I didn't know that. I said, I'm so not cool. They go, yeah, you don't say that either. No one says cool anymore. So I'm very stressed. So thank you. And I'm done. Thanks. What happens now? Oh. Okay, I have to tell you something about junior high. Remember that day when you got caught? Oh,
Smoking a joint? No. Oh, that was you. Right, I forgot about that. All right, thank you all so much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.